What are you thinking about? You gotta be alert. How many thought I retired? Hello, I'm Mike Moore, and welcome to the How to Win podcast. These podcasts are based off 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 14. It says, "Now thanks be unto God who always causes us to triumph in Christ." We are so happy to have you with us today. I'm with my beautiful daughter, Tiffany. Hey, Tiffany.
Hey.
And we are going to be discussing an area that many people deal with, and that is loneliness, finding comfort in isolation. Loneliness. Wow, that's an interesting subject, Tiffany. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about loneliness. Okay. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, I can. Mm-hmm. You want to ask me a question, or you want me to ask you a question?
I think I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
Why do you think so many? Well, let me give you a statistic.
Okay.
A survey was taken in 2020
Mm-hmm.
of 10,000 people
Mm-hmm.
Concerning the issue of loneliness,
Okay.
and 61% said that they were experiencing loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
61% out of 10,000 people. Mm-hmm. Sounds like loneliness may be a major problem.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think it is a major problem?
Mm-hmm.
And can you answer why do you think people don't talk about it?
Yeah, so I think everybody has different definitions of what loneliness is. For
you share your definition?
Okay, so for me, loneliness means you just feel disconnected.
Okay.
Right? So whether it be disconnected from family, disconnected from friends, disconnected from relationships, to me, loneliness is your emotions and your body telling you that there's not a connection made somewhere. Mm-hmm. And I think we were all built to feel connected with people, because there are people who are alone, but they're not lonely. Mm-hmm. And so one of that can be because they're still connected with people. Mm-hmm. I think most people don't talk about loneliness because it kind of can be a stigmatism of like something's wrong if you're feeling lonely.
That's good.
Or
that's good.
Some people feel like not necessarily that it's a problem that you're lonely, but you may be isolating yourself from other people. So I think loneliness is one of those topics that people are going through it, but they don't want to be looked at as a person who doesn't have connection.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I see several reasons why I think people don't talk about it, mm-hmm. even though they experience. I think everybody experiences loneliness at some point.
Yeah.
I really do. I think some of it is upbringing. Mm-hmm. You know, we talked about it. We're back to that issue of dysfunctions in families, and I think you mentioned some in one of those sessions about things can be symptomatic of other things.
Yeah.
Well, I think loneliness in some cases can be traced to upbringing, because see, depending on the background of family, there was a culture of silence, mm-hmm. you know, and I think sometimes we were taught you stand on your own 2 feet. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be dependent on people. Mm-hmm. And so I think we carry that too far. I think it's a culture. I think culture adds to it. Independence.
Yeah, that's good, because you feel like you got to handle everything on
you
your
got to
own.
handle it yourself. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people don't talk about it because they don't have a safe place to talk about it.
Yeah.
I think some people don't talk about their loneliness because they don't want to be judged. And you brought out people don't want to be viewed as I'm lacking something, that there's something wrong with me.
Right.
And yet, a large percentage of the people can be experiencing the same thing, but nobody's really talking about it.
Yeah.
So you think you're the only one that's experiencing it. And then, to be honest with you, if I don't have a safe place to talk about it, where I won't be judged, then I'm not going to talk about it.
And I think that's a good point, too, because I think people bring it up, but it can be dismissed. And a lot of times if friends or family share it with someone who they feel like it's a safe place, but it's dismissed, then they retreat from sharing again because they feel like you're not really understanding their perspective of where they are. Or sometimes people can look at a person's life and be like, well, you don't have no reason to feel lonely. Like, you got a blessed life. And so I think sometimes people can just be like, oh, well, they're too dramatic, or they're, going through their own issues, and it's not that deep. So I think that's some of the things. Have you ever experienced a season of loneliness, and what did that look like for you?
Well, I've experienced, and see, there is, I would think, and you mentioned it, you alluded to it, I would think that single people would think that married people don't experience loneliness. But I've had several occasions where I experienced loneliness when I, got married.
Okay, let's go back to that, because I think when you say that, I was like, I kind of do think that. I think it.
You're single. I'm married. Okay.
I think it because at the end of the day, you still got somebody around you. You still have somebody who's there around you. So to me, sometimes I may not understand it because you have people around you.
Okay. You mentioned one face of loneliness. Okay. You talked about being isolated. So let me give you some other faces of it.
Okay.
Loneliness can be that sadness that you feel because you feel isolated and disconnected.
Okay.
Okay. But that can be single or married. For example, let's say you're in a long distance relationship as a single person. Well, you can feel isolated because that person is not with you on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Or you could be married, and let's say you married to a person that's in the military, and they're separated long periods of time from you doing military duty. Or you can be married to an athlete, and an athlete may have seasons where they're away from home for long periods of time, so you can feel isolated and cut off. So there are a lot of situations you can, let's say you get another job, and your job takes you away from family. My wife, Pete, is from Kentucky. I was raised up in Birmingham. We met in college in Kentucky. Well, she left Kentucky and had no family, had no friends here. She was leaving because of me. So she's cut off, isolated, but she's married.
Yeah.
There's another phase of marriage where you don't feel that someone really care about you. You don't feel like, now I experienced that because remember, well, you would know, I dealt with rejection, and that rejection began as a child, but it spilled over into my adulthood.
Yeah.
So early in my marriage, I was convinced that Pete did not care about me. Okay? I didn't know I was seeing her out of the eyes of rejection. And then Pete, there were times, she was dealing with the fact that I was heavy into ministry. And so she's feeling like he doesn't care about me as much as he cares about ministry. But we married.
Yeah.
Okay, there's another face of loneliness. That is when you crave a deep connection with someone and you don't have it.
Yeah.
Okay, that can work both ways. Let's say you're a single person. You crave a deep connection with someone. You don't have it.
Yeah.
Well, it's possible to be married
Yeah.
and not have a deep connection with your spouse.
So let me ask you this question, because me personally, when I think of loneliness, sometimes I can put it in the category of gender. So I think mostly females. What does loneliness look like for men?
Okay. It means the same thing. Okay, sometimes you feel isolated. Okay, sometimes you feel that a person doesn't care. A married man or a man can feel the same thing.
Okay.
Sometimes you feel you want a deep connection. Well, Peter, I was married, but we didn't have a deep connection, Or watch this. Another phase of loneliness, and I'm explaining how I view it, is that you have a relationship, but you're not satisfied with the quality of it. You're not satisfied with the amount of time,
Yeah.
You're not satisfied with the nature of it. For example, what if you're married and you're a believer and the person that you're married to is not a believer?
Okay.
There's going to be many issues you can't even talk about, things you can't even relate to that person, but yet you're married.
Yeah.
What if you're in a long distance relationship? Well, you want more time. You like to spend more time with the person.
Yeah.
So I think it feels the same for a man as it does a female. And I think it feels the same being single or being married, because there are a lot of lonely people that are married.
Yeah. What do you think the difference is between being lonely and being alone? Because some people like being alone. Some people, you grew up as the only child, so you seem like you ain't had no problem being alone.
Hey. When you said that, I thought about Pete. Pete is my wife. If you've never, if this is your first time listening to me or Tiffany or the podcast, my wife of 46 years, her nickname is Pete. It's not a boy, it's a girl, but she had a boy nickname. I met her in college. Well, I was raised an only child. Now I have siblings, and we've gotten closer as we've gotten older. But I was raised an only child, so I got used to
Playing by yourself.
Playing by yourself. I mean, you just got used to.
Yeah.
And as a kid, I used to want brothers and sisters, because when it rained, I'm in the house, or whatever, and you look at other folk and they got brothers and sisters, and you say, you wish you had that.
Yeah.
So you get used to playing by
yourself.
yourself. And so Pete tells me, she tells me that you like to play by yourself. Well, it has a lot to do with the way I was raised. So I contracted COVID. And my wife contracted COVID. For her, it was
torture.
Prison.
Torture.
It was torture. I mean, it was prison. I had COVID. I went upstairs. Our house is large enough.
You wanted more days.
I wanted more days. Hey, listen. I didn't have any symptoms. I had minor symptoms, so I didn't have a lot of symptoms. So I was doing my lessons and preparing sermons and all that. And Pete said, "Well, you're going to test?" I said, give me one more. Hey, one more day, so I can spend buckets of time.
You can.
I really can. I got a family house, and they said they thought I was a loner. You think I'm a loner?
Absolutely.
No, I'm not.
Absolutely.
You think I'm a loner?
Yes.
Oh,
you would be all right you would want somebody to go with you on a trip, but you would be all right by yourself. Going most places.
Well, see, now it's I like people though.
But you,
as a pastor, I like being with people.
you do like being with people.
I love being with people.
But if somebody gave you tickets to an Alabama game or a basketball game, you can go all by yourself and have a good old time.
Now, game, I kind of would like to have somebody go along with me, but I could go someplace. But it's a difference. Okay, you know we got to go to the scripture. Adam was alone.
Okay.
When God says it's not good for the man to be alone, he didn't say it's not good for him to be lonely. Adam was not lonely.
Mm-hmm.
God wanted him to have a partner.
Yeah.
You know, and so it was not good for him to not have any kind of human connection.
Mm-hmm.
But Adam wasn't sitting around and said, dog, I'm lonely.
Yeah.
No, he was alone. So alone and lonely are not the same thing. Now, I tell you, I made a mistake early in my ministry. May not have been early. I used to always think that if a person was lonely, it was some kind of spiritual problem.
In what way? Explain it.
I don't think that anymore.
Okay.
I really don't think that.
Because I'm pretty sure more people think like how you think. So what do you mean by you thought it was a spiritual problem?
Okay. It can be a spiritual problem, but I don't think it necessarily is one because there are many phases. And I went through them phases by being isolated. You can be isolated. It's not a spiritual problem. You can be cut off from somebody. It's not a spiritual problem. Or I think though.
Or naturally shy.
Huh?
Some people are naturally shy.
Yeah, and it's
quiet.
not necessarily a spiritual problem or upbringing like me. You know, I don't think it. Now, there's a phase of loneliness that can be a spiritual problem.
Okay.
And that is when you think no one cares about you. Okay, no one cares about you. And you want somebody because no one cares. Now, that's a problem, and that's a spiritual problem.
Yeah.
Now, that's a spiritual problem because now you're looking to somebody to feel something that they can't.
Yeah.
Because if you get that somebody, but you feel no one cares about you, then that's a spiritual problem because now you're looking for somebody to care about you because, listen, no one cares about you. That means God doesn't even care about you.
Yeah.
He doesn't even care about you. So a person now is not going to be able to feel that. You're going to be now trying to get from a person what you should be getting from God.
Yeah. I think another thing, because I'm going to ask you another question, another thing that I think that can contribute to the loneliness is if you are relocating. I remember when I moved to Atlanta, I knew people, but I didn't know them enough to connect with them. And I'm a person who I thrive off of connection. I think I get that from mama. So I like to be around people. And so not having that connection, and then if you ain't got the finances to be going out all the time and doing all of that stuff, you can kind of be put into a bubble, although it's a good thing that you kind of moved away.
Well, that's what I was referring to. Your situation, you moved to Georgia, no family there.
Yeah.
Okay. Pete moved from Kentucky to Birmingham. She had no family and no friends here. She graduated from college, came here, had nobody.
Yeah.
So she felt, because she would say all the time, I wish I had family here. I wish my family was here. If my family lived here. So there is a problem of loneliness where a person is, cut off from maybe connections that they had.
But some of it is being intentional because you talked about family. I did have your sister in Georgia, and when I connected with them, then that kind of helped with a lot of that too as well. I wanted to talk to you about solitude. And I hear people say all the time, like for singles, embrace this lonely season, not lonely season, but embrace this season of solitude, because when you get married, you got kids pulling at you and doing all of this stuff. Do you think that there's a benefit for being in solitude?
Yeah, and I think there is some truth to the difference between being single and being married.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul, spoke to that in the First Corinthians, I think it's 7th chapter. He talked about how marriage brings the problem of carefulness about the things of the world. You naturally gotta care for your spouse, care for your children.
Mm-hmm.
If you work, you gotta care for that.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be very challenging
Mm-hmm.
to find space for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think solitude is important because it gives you a chance to reflect. When you're in the grind, I call that when you're in the everyday life of doing and going and being. And for most women, it's compounded, whether you're single or married, because women, they're nurturers. And for the most part, they have responsibilities toward the kids that are different than the responsibilities that the husband has. There, for the most part, it's not always true. There's a connection, having carried those kids for so many months, that a female will have with the children. So raising those kids, although the husband should be engaged and involved, working, many women are working, and then your spiritual life, and then even if you're what we call a homemaker, you're still working because you're doing things in the house. You're just not getting paid for it.
Yeah.
But there's work when you are at home. Taking care of all the business of the home is work.
Yeah.
So I can see that. What? Give me your what were you taking me? You were taking me somewhere in your question.
I think I asked you about, is there a benefit of being in solitude?
And I think the solitude helps you to be able to reflect on everything. It gives you some space to think about yourself. Give you some space to think about God, meditate on God outside of the grind and the problem and the challenges. And you can't find that in the grind.
Okay, speak to us singles, because I know singles out there, they message me all the time and say I be speaking for them. Speak to us singles who feel like we've been in solitude long enough. We have gotten the mind of Christ. We understand. We know how he feels, and he loves us. But what do you say to the people who feel like they have been in solitude for long enough?
Hey, I'm gonna say this, and I know it may sound trite, but I feel you. And I think I can say that because I pastored for so many years, and a pastor's heart is to feel what the flock feels. And I can imagine that can be tough when you hear solitude.
Yeah.
And you single.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, I just got enough of this solitude.
And then you be like, they say it's better to be single than to be married. Who said that? Who was the one who said that?
You know, I don't know. I don't know if that's totally true across the board.
Yeah.
It's better to be single than to be married.
But it's that scripture, people reference when Paul says, if you feel like you got the urge or whatever, it's better to marry than to burn or whatever.
What Paul was talking about, because Paul lived from a Christ could come any moment.
Right.
And he lived from the angle of the difference between serving Christ married and the difference between serving Christ single. He's not talking about whole life holistic.
Yeah.
He's talking about he could come back any time. And if he comes back tomorrow or next week or 3 months from now, it would be better for you to be single because you can give your total concentration on that. But he wasn't saying necessarily that singleness was better than marriage. I don't think that's what he was saying because God created marriage.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's better to be single if you want to be single. You know, but if you want to be married, then marriage is better. It is depend on the person.
Yeah.
So I understand that. I can understand how when you talk about solitude, but you know, it's an opportunity to develop things that a married person don't have the opportunity to do.
Like what?
Like intimacy. I think that
With God.
yeah, I think intimacy with God is as deep as you can go. I think that there is an opportunity to spend more time developing intimacy. And see, when I talk about intimacy, I'm not talking about religious duties. I'm talking about going deep in terms of a connection with God.
Yeah.
And so you, in the same way that you can be married to a person and not have a deep connection,
Yeah.
you can be born again
And not have a deep connection.
and not have a deep connection.
Yeah.
And I think the capacity to go deep per, I think a single person has an advantage.
Yeah.
Now, it some of that is what you want. You know? I think the capacity to have something more deeper with God gives the single person advantage, just because of time, just because of the not having the distraction of having to work alongside somebody else, having the opportunity to go when you want to go.
Yeah.
Go here if God is leading you. Go there if God is leading you. Well, a married person now got to get agreement.
Yeah.
You know, you got to get some agreement. Even if God says it,
Yeah.
you can do it. I'm going to do
Yeah.
it if she wants it or he wants it or not. But there's so much tension, so much strain.
And I think I joke about the singleness and the marriage thing, but I do enjoy the benefit, especially from talking to my friends who are married, that I'm able to be able to go when I want to go, do certain things, study certain things.
There are some advantages now.
Yeah, there's a lot of advantages.
And some sacrifice when you get married.
Yeah, so let's talk about the married person who feels alone. I know that you mentioned before you can feel lonely in a marriage. So whether you're a mother, because I think sometimes mothers feel alone in raising their kids, and then sometimes wives can feel alone when they're with their husbands, vice versa, husbands can feel alone. So can you speak to those people who feel alone but they're surrounded by people?
Well, and I could speak to my situation. Okay. When you're in a marriage and you don't have a deep connection, and early in my marriage, I can honestly say that Pete and I always loved each other, but we weren't happy.
Yeah.
Okay, we were not happy. I wasn't really meeting her needs. She wasn't really meeting my needs. And we didn't know how to be married.
Yeah.
That can be extremely lonely because when you married and don't have a deep connection, you feel trapped. And see, a married person that doesn't have a deep connection with their spouse or unhappy feels trapped. In other words, this what goes through a person's mind.
Yeah.
If I was single, I can go in another direction. But I'm trapped.
Yeah.
And I used to feel sorry for my wife. I felt sorry for her because I knew she wasn't happy. I didn't know how to help her with that. I knew she wasn't happy. I wasn't happy. And so we both felt trapped. To me, that's worse, to have somebody around you and you feel lonely.
Yeah.
To me, that's worse. Now,
especially if you're committed in a relationship.
Especially if you
now,
commit.
You can be uncommitted and be stepping out and doing everything. But if you committed into the relationship.
Yeah, and see, we committed.
Yeah.
See, we were committed to the relationship, but it's not meeting needs.
Yeah.
So you feel trapped. Now, a single person would think, if I had somebody, I wouldn't feel this way. You may. It just depends on what the quality of that relationship. Because if you have somebody, like people who say any man is better than no man. No, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. There are a lot of married people right now wish they were not married. And a lot of married people trying to figure out how I can get out of this thing. So you can be very lonely in marriage. You can be very lonely in ministry.
Yeah.
Because when I first started out ministry, I felt like I didn't have nobody to talk to.
Yeah.
I really didn't feel like I had nobody to talk to because I was going against the grain of my denominational background and teaching and doctrine. It was totally different. I was moving in the spirit-filled life outside, away from my denominational structure and all that, and it felt extremely lonely. I mean, extremely lonely.
From the ministry perspective of it, people never really think about, or I never really think about it from that perspective, because you can't just talk to everybody about what's going on in your life. So there is some form of isolation.
Leaders feel a great deal of loneliness because for the most part, leaders, not in a negative way, they're looking down. A leader, a pastor, whatever, this is their flock, okay? It's kind of like, these my kids, you know what I mean? So I can't come out there as a pastor and say, listen, y'all, I'm just as lustful as I want to be. Listen, I want me a drink. I need me a pill. I need me some weed, you know what I mean? I need something to relax my nerves. Your pastor's thinking all that. Right. Your pastor's thinking all that. But you can't talk down, because if you talk down, it confuses the flock. Yeah. So some pastors don't have anybody where they are not reverend. They're not prophet. They don't have a safe space where they can just be me. Yeah. So it can be extremely lonely in every level of leadership, because you're a leader and so it's a challenge. Now I'll tell you something. Back to your question. Me being lonely in ministry. Because I didn't go to seminary, didn't go to Bible school, didn't know what I was doing, yet I didn't have nobody. Now, my father in the faith was Dr. Price. He's in California. I'm broke over here in Birmingham. You ain't got no social media now. Yeah. You ain't got no social media. Yeah. So I can't get to him because I can't afford to even get to him. Yeah. Okay. I tell you what, really, now I did the books and tapes and all that, and I did everything I could. But the benefit, because I chose, it drove me to God. And I think I wouldn't undo it. I wouldn't do it differently. Yeah. Because I developed a prayer life because I ain't had nobody to talk to. I ain't had nobody to ask no questions to. So I developed a level of intimacy with God that I wouldn't have had if I had everybody to be talking to. And I think it's good to have people to talk to. But I think God allowed me in that particular situation to develop something with him before I had the other things. And I think that's what happened with Adam. Let me finish that. I think that's what happened with Adam. I think, I can't prove it, I think Adam was alone for a good period of time. I don't think it's like chapter 1, creation, chapter 2, man, and then female came on the scene. I think it could have been years.
Wow.
It could have been many years where it was just God and Adam. And I think that that period was important to God because God wanted Adam to have a relationship with him before he had a relationship with anybody. That's why it's important for single people to have a relationship with God before they get married.
Yeah.
If that's possible. Because now you got a connection with God, because this connection with the person is going to pull some of your time, your energy, and your thoughts. And I think God wanted to establish a relationship with Adam before Eve came on the scene, because God wanted Adam to make Eve a priority.
So speak to the person who, because marriage is not the goal for everybody. But what would you say to the person who literally is alone? Like they don't have any family, they don't have many friends. What role does the church play in that? And then what would you say that a person should do who's struggling with loneliness on a day-to-day basis?
Okay. I think I would say this to you: if you don't have anybody,
Especially with the holidays coming up, some people may not have people who they can go spend holidays with and different things like that with.
I think that one of the reasons that God established the local church, because people will say, well, I got Jesus, that's all I need.
Yeah.
But I think God created the local church so that people could have connections.
So you can't build connection online just watching it
No,
online.
no. I'm getting to that.
Okay.
I think it's important to have face-to-face connections.
Yeah.
So if it's possible, I think it's important to be connected to a local church. You need to join the local church. You need to pray about it, search, go around, and join the local church, because I think those in-person connections are important. Hopefully in that in-person church, the local church, you got small groups. Sometimes the small group can be service groups.
Yeah.
You're an usher, you're a greeter, or you're in the worship ministry or choir or whatever. Being in those kinds of environments will give you a connection. If the church has small groups, then you get in a small group, then God got some avenues to make connections. You don't need a connection with everybody in the church.
Yeah.
God can take the choir, or God can take the ushers, or God can take the parking group and develop some connections in those groups. Now, some people, and maybe you're listening now, you don't have a good church. Maybe you're in an area where there's no churches. Maybe you're in a remote area. I think now you should connect to a church online. Because some churches, I think you can eventually get in a small group online.
Yeah.
You know, and that's your connection point.
Yeah, I think small groups for me has been like a saving grace for me. I've been in multiple ones, whether it be writing or just meeting up. And for me, my small...
Talk about your running group.
Well, my running group it's not a church small group, but my running group is a group that I depend on, especially for like, because it helps me stay accountable.
Okay, explain that for the people who don't know what you're doing, because okay, you say it's not a church group. Okay,
Right.
we want people to understand it doesn't necessarily have to be a church group. Okay.
Yeah, so one of the things that I wanted to improve on or to build on was my love for running or being able to run, because I hated running. And so there's a local group that I joined, and they run 3 to 4 times out of the week, and we would go every once or twice or whatever. And now I've built relationships with the ladies or the guys that was helping, like what shoes to buy, what clothes to buy. Now that it's getting colder, they like what clothes to wear. So it's really just helping me connect and then also grow in what it is that I wanted to learn in. Now, the Bible study small group that I joined, we originally started off because we were writing. and we wanted to do different things like that. But then it turned into a friendship, and now I hang out with those ladies like literally all the time.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. And you're single, okay? Now you want to be married. We don't put that out there. You want to be married, but at the same time, you don't have to wait till you get married to make some connections.
Yeah.
And you talked about a Bible group that you're in, and you also talk about a running group. How many miles you got up to?
I'm up to nonstop. Last time it was 10 miles nonstop.
10 miles nonstop.
And I couldn't even do about 1.5.
Now?
No, when I first started, I couldn't hardly get 1.5.
Now you can do 10 miles.
10 miles nonstop.
Nonstop. Well, you know, I think that's helpful for people because sometimes people, they stay at home and they do nothing. They don't pray about connections.
Yeah.
It can be a sewing group. It could be, you talked about a writers group. It can be any kind of cycling. It could be any kind of group.
Yeah.
But I think that's important.
Yeah. I think it helps you.
To make some kind of connections. That's practical to me.
And you have to figure out which one, because I've been in so many. I knew which ones I liked and which ones I didn't, because I was in the reading group and I was like, no.
You shopped around.
Yeah. So people have to understand, like, you may not like it. And if you don't like it, you don't have to stay in it. Find something else that you do like.
Well, you know, I like to bring out this point. If you're single, it's so easy to just sit at home and do nothing.
Yeah.
And just think about, I'm single. I wish I had somebody. I want to be married. I don't think you have to wait till you get married to make connections.
Right.
And I think God is more concerned about you not being lonely than you are.
Yeah.
But you decided to join the group.
Yeah. I think it's the same thing even for married couples, connecting with either other married couples or other wives who may be going through the same thing, like other moms who may be going through the same thing as well. Just getting out there connected, because a lot of my friends who have kids, it's so easy to be isolated with just your family and your kids that you don't even try to make time to be with someone
Well,
else.
you know, I'm going to say something, it may be a little controversial.
Okay.
So what I'm going to say, I'm going to qualify it.
Okay.
What I'm getting ready to say is not a rule for everybody. But I think sometimes, especially married couples, they have a relationship with their spouse and that's all.
Yeah.
Now, if both couples, both persons in the marriage are happy, fine. If it's mutual fulfilling, fine.
Yeah.
My personal opinion, and it's just an opinion, not a mandate from God,
Yeah.
that it's healthy to have balance where you can have, as a husband, relationships with people other than your spouse, and your spouse can have relationship with others other than the spouse, because that gives balance. Now, I tell you why I said that. From a personal standpoint, Pete, my wife, has a small group. She's has a small group of friends. They're friends, you know. She's the kind of like maybe the unofficial leader, but it's friends, you know what I mean? We decide things we're going to do.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like she's the head, you know, but we're friends, okay? And she enjoys it.
Yeah.
She meets with them once a month.
Yeah.
And she said, I'm leaving. I got my group today. And on Saturdays, when they do it, or it may be during the week, I know she's going to be back late during the evening sometime.
Yeah.
Well, to me, that's healthy.
Yeah.
And then she has a small group, where she's over some young ladies. I just feel sometimes that when we've got to get everything from our spouse, the reason I brought it up is there's so many, especially women who are lonely in their marriages.
Yeah.
They're just lonely.
Yeah.
You know, and it's almost like a rule they have that they can't develop a relationship or even join something.
Yeah.
Their spouse got to be connected to it. And I just think I wouldn't want my wife to be just lonely. I wouldn't want her to just me. I'm the one for you. You know, I'm it. I'm everything. I want to be everything to you. Yeah. I wouldn't want my wife to feel that. I wouldn't want me to have that burden of being everything. And then I wouldn't want my wife to have that burden. I would want her to get her needs met, and I'm not sure I can get all her needs met like that. Where I got to be everything. And then I've seen spouses die, and when they die, they terrible. They miserable. They don't even want to live. Yeah. Because everything was this person. I mean, everything was the person. Yeah. And I just think that's unhealthy, but that's an opinion.
Well, we have a few minutes left. I want you to just kind of close us out on what people should do if they're experiencing loneliness. What can they do on a day-to-day basis, or what can they do spiritually, and then, just close us out.
I give you some things about loneliness, a few things. Number one, avoid counterfeit solutions. Avoid that, okay? A counterfeit solution can be food. Okay. You're lonely, so you're going to eat.
Right.
That is a counterfeit solution.
Yeah.
You're lonely because and then you're going to sleep with anybody who won't sleep with you because you want somebody. Right. That's a counterfeit solution. Drugs could be a counterfeit solution. Television can be a counterfeit solution. Internet can be a counterfeit solution. You got to avoid the counterfeit solutions. Yeah. Secondly, it's going to involve some thought management. Casting down those imaginations like nobody cares for me, nobody loves me, nobody wants me, I'll never have nobody, I'm going to die by myself, I'll never get married. See, there has to be some thought management. Thirdly, I would say service. Yeah. Serving. I mean, when I was going through ministry and felt all lonely, and even in marriage, there were times when I felt lonely. I served. Yeah. I was just involved in trying to help people, and it helped me. Yeah. It helped me to serve people because when I was serving people, I wasn't just thinking about me. I add a fourth thing that you mentioned is connections. Work to get some connections. They may be in the church, may be out the church. It may be a hobby. It may be something you wanted to do. Some kind of group, some kind of connection. And then number 5, push in toward God. I mean, push toward God.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
we are out of time. Listen. We love you. Let us know what you think about this discussion. Put it in the chat. We'll check it out. And remember, this is How to Win Tiffany and Mike. Love y'all. What are you thinking about? You got to be alert. How many thought I retired?
Are you ready to break free from the chains of anxiety, stress, and depression? Mike Moore, author and founding pastor of Faith Chapel and host of the How to Win podcast, is here with his new book, Help, My Mind is Under Attack. Learn how to overcome attacks on your mind and live an emotionally healthy life. Grab your copy now. Available as ebook on Amazon and paperback on MikeMoore.com. Embark on your journey to complete mental health and emotional peace.